webinar, we have an esteemed guest, Mr. Sitash Srivastava, co-founder and co-CEO of StockAl. Sitash takes care of investor relations, global expansion, and strategic communication at StockAl. Sitash started his career as an engineer building clearing platform technology for 14 large UK-based banks at Perot Systems. Later, he went on to work with Cognizant Business Consulting, working for large consumer brands in the US, India, and Southeast Asia. He was co-founder and CEO of Jade Magnet, Asia's first B2B crowdsourcing marketplace with presence in India, Singapore, Qatar, and the US. Over 3,500 companies and 15,000 service providers use Jade Magnet. Sitash co-founded StockAl in 2016 in New York and has since grown its presence to 5 countries. Funded by marquee investors in the US, India, Singapore, UK, and Middle East, StockAl's global investing platform is used by retail customers in 14 countries across the world. As you all may know, Scriptbox is India's most trusted digital wealth management service. At Scriptbox, we believe that good investing is not just about choosing a fund, it's about understanding your aspirations and goals, building a portfolio, and managing it actively so that you do not compromise on your dreams. We are a SEBI-registered investment advisor. We keep sharing insights, ideas, and content on a regular basis on topics related to investments, aspirations, life goals, leadership, and health. Please visit our website, scriptbox.com, social media platforms, and channel Scriptbox on YouTube. If you like this webinar, do tweet about it mentioning the handle Scriptbox. The US market is a developed market with a market cap of almost $46 trillion. That is roughly 3,450 lakh crores. Just to put things into perspective, Indian mutual fund industry is around 34 lakhs crores, which is 1% of the US market cap. Indian stock market is around 7% of the US market. The US has been leading the innovation cycle and technology development in the last 40 years. The world markets are interconnected now like never before. The long-term correlation of the Indian market and the US market is around 0.2. So does it make sense to invest in the US market? We have partnered with StockAl to bring hassle-free and convenient investing in the US stocks through the Scriptbox platform. So let me welcome Sitash to address some questions related to US investing.
Hi, Anup. Hi, everyone. Thank you so much, Anup, for the kind introduction. And it's great to have a chat with you about international investing. And it's before that, I mean, it's super exciting to partner with Scriptbox in bringing global investing to Indian investors. It's a pleasure. It's an honor. Thank you so much.
So, Sitash, our viewers would, I think, like to understand global investing and what is the need to invest in the US markets?
Right. No, I think when you started off, you talked about the size of the US market, and relative to the size of the US market, India is obviously small, and US market is the world's largest market. And at various levels, one can think that why not participate in the world's largest capital market? Instead of saying why participate in the US market, right? So that's the way we sort of structured our thinking around this. Why not participate in a market which presents the world's largest opportunities for investing and therefore for sort of growth? There is strong data to support it as well. I mean, not just in terms of size, in terms of returns. The US market has done very well, considering that the dollar also appreciates against the rupee 3 to 4% a year. And there are companies which are trillion-dollar companies now listed in the US market, which are not accessible if you are not investing in that market. Why not participate in that opportunity, therefore? And these are growing companies. There are themes and sectors which are available in the global markets, US in particular, like technology, which are not as much available in local markets. It's great that a lot of tech startups are going IPO in India, and it's great for the Indian market. But until this matures, and alongside this, why not invest in the world's largest technology companies and a variety of technology companies which are listed in the US market, and not necessarily American companies only, but also global companies, be it European, be it Chinese, be it other Asian companies also listed in the US. So yeah, I mean, I would turn it around and say why not. And you did mention that the correlation is not particularly high as well. So from a diversification perspective, it's just, if one just thinks logically about it, it makes sense to diversify at least a piece of one's portfolio into the US or global financial markets.
So often what happens, Sitash, is that investors flock to a particular market or particular stock or a group of stocks, let's say, or a sector, for example, let's say technology, because of the latest trend that may have happened. And especially with COVID in the last 2 years, technology and even pharma have been the trends, right?
Yeah.
So is it something that people see those FANG stocks, which we keep hearing about, we use their products also, Apple, Amazon. Amazon has been great in terms of deliveries along with our homegrown Flipkart. So is it because people see those companies and say, hey, I got to invest in it? And I'll give you the latest example, Zomato. So a lot of us use Zomato, and people also identified with Zomato. So they probably ended up investing in that. So is it because of that, or is it really diversification? So from investing rules perspective, I was referring to, do we really need to invest in the US? And what would be some of those criteria that you would put for US investing?
Yeah. So I think there are, if we go by traditional investing frameworks as well, diversification is advised almost all the time. And therefore, diversifying even within India, we always recommend that investors should diversify between various kinds of sectors, between equity and non-equity investments, etc. as well. So when one is diversifying, why leave out the largest market in the world from a diversification perspective, which is again the most fundamental thought process when it comes to investing. And like you said, people invested in Zomato because of the relatability. Of late, relatability has become a big deal when it comes to investing in general, because investing in something which one is uncomfortable with, or which one does not understand by default, is riskier than investing in something which one is interested in, and therefore is willing to learn about and is willing to understand more about. And when we come to relatability with products, brands, services, obviously from an Indian perspective, Indians are extremely exposed to global products. Be it, you mentioned Amazon's delivery. I would mention Amazon's content as well. Be it Netflix, be it Apple or Google, be it Zoom, on which we are discussing right now. And of course, the traditional companies like Coke, Pepsi, and GM and the banks, and we work for global companies as well. So our exposure to international companies, and not just in technology, and not just the companies that we read about on in media, startups, it's that we read about in the media. It's just traditionally forever some of the largest companies of the world, not just in the US, are listed. They happen to be listed in the US. And therefore, the relatability with the products that they make is high. The relatability with their brands is high. And a lot of them are doing well. I mean, they've shown consistent performance over dozens of years, if not 50, 100 years in many cases, at a market cap which is when we look at market cap, again, like a fundamental example, right? If we put the whole world as a single stock market, if access was the same, affordability was the same, if the whole world was one stock market, India is probably a mid-cap market in that sense. The whole of the Indian market is probably a mid-cap market. So diversification, prudent diversification would recommend that don't invest all your investments, don't make all your investments in only mid-cap. You have to invest in large cap as well. Make it safer, basically, right? And US, large part of the US relative to pretty much all of India is a large cap. And then there are mega cap companies within that as well. So, again, fundamentally speaking, it just makes sense. We look at the math, or we look at the emotions behind it. Both ways, as we sort of, concentrate.
No, very well put, Sitash, in terms of the large cap and mid cap, because we often don't think like that. And I think when it comes to investing, we should relativity to a particular stock would always be there. But we should also make sure that we treat our portfolio as something which is one global portfolio, where I should be taking advantage. And in fact, one of the other things that I will say is, here when foreign institutions invest in in India, they of course can move market up and down with all the investments, right? So why not go now to invest in the US, right? We
Yeah.
do the same and participate, because the companies in the US, Google has become synonymous with search, right? Amazon with delivery, and Netflix with probably the online content, even Prime Video, and Facebook, etc., etc. So why not use that or the growth that these companies are having by going to different markets? Why not participate in that market or in that growth along with these companies, right? So what are the different features? Because when we talk about the US, we have Nasdaq, we have S&P 500, we have Dow Jones, right?
Yeah.
And often because we have so much exposure to technology, right? And the world has taken leaps and bounds to move to technology in the last 2 years. Something that may have happened in 10 years, now it's happened in like 2 years, right? So is it only Nasdaq that people should invest, or Nasdaq stocks, or FANG stocks, or is it something else that they can look at? And what is your view on US stock investing? What are the different features that you would think are there of the US stock market?
Yeah, no, I think not just Nasdaq. I mean, honestly, obviously, investments in technology are, very high relative to other sectors, even for the American audiences. But we see people investing across, traditional or relatively traditional, as well as, technology companies. And also, again, now that you've entered the market, I would say one has to continue looking at diversification and continue looking at opportunities. For instance, pharma, and you mentioned pharma in the beginning again. When Pfizer and Moderna got their approvals and vaccination started, the stocks did very well. There was a natural reaction to the stocks. So one can't ignore the fact that there are certain other sectors which are very relevant at various points of time. When the lockdown started, and a lot of these examples are from the last 1 year because it's been a crazy year in the markets as well. When the lockdown started, obviously all the airline stocks fell, and but if you look at the manufacturer stocks, Boeing, for instance, it fell like I think it fell 70% at the time of the beginning of the lockdown, as obviously a ripple effect of what happened with the travel industry. Over a period of time, now it's up 101% since then. So if obviously one just ignores everything else and focuses only on Nasdaq stocks, which are primarily technology stocks, then one would not do justice, to sort of getting into the market and beginning to invest. So that's what I would say. There are opportunities everywhere, much like any other diversified market. When there is sectoral diversification, when there is thematic diversification as well, there are opportunities everywhere. And some of these sectors are inaccessible from an India perspective. There are hardly any airline stocks in India. Very few, companies where we can actually, meaningfully invest. Obviously, the global airline sector is much larger, and it's easier to study. Also, there are so many more examples, and there are ripple effects of everything everywhere as well. I mean, with your experience in the industry, oil prices change, and then there is a ripple effect on travel. So these kind of correlations are lovely to look at if one really starts studying them, and therefore opportunities emerge in very sort of unknown areas, but one starts digging, and then we feel like, hey, oh, this is so natural. It obviously makes sense that if a massive event on the one side will have a ripple effect on a bunch of industries, and technology is just one of them. Technology has obviously been favored because it's just done extremely well, and people have sort of now believed that it's here to stay. It's not a sector anymore. It's pervasive across.
It's a way of life now.
It's a way of life. So as an investor, you can't just think of, hey, this is a technology company. That's also a very interesting trend, right? I mean, a lot of this is becoming thematic now and not just sectoral, which is again something which is available from a global or a US market perspective. Tesla is an energy company also. Tesla is an automotive company also. Tesla is a technology company also. Take it for what it is.
No, in fact, I remember this example, and I even posted something on this on LinkedIn. Tesla had, like, even though they were selling a fraction of the cars as compared to Toyota, but
Right.
their market cap was higher than Toyota, right?
Yeah.
And it's purely because it's not treated as an automotive company only. It is a
Yeah.
technology company also. It's a energy company, energies like alternate energies
Yeah.
company, right? So it's a mixture of both. So there are those boundaries are also those what I would say definitions of what a sector is also kind of expanding because technology is pervasive all along. And what I would say is uh, now what you have to do is you have to see the technology applications.
Yeah.
So there will be very unique applications for technology. It can be in space also, right? Because in space,
Absolutely. Yeah.
and
Yeah.
SpaceX, for example, we are talking about and Blue Origin, right? So the companies were doing things but using technology. So they, in a way, they may be technology companies, but they have a different application, and that application can be really, really unique, which can provide good opportunities. And you take an example of Moderna. So
Yeah.
the mRNA that we are talking about, and the only reason we could come out with a vaccine so fast in record time is because of the technology, right? I don't
Absolutely.
think if it
Absolutely.
was like 100 years back or 50 years back, probably we would have taken like 3 years or 4 years. We would have. I just I don't
Can't
want to
imagine.
think about the scenario where we are locked down for 3 years,
Yeah.
and because the vaccine is not there. So because of technology advancements, we have been able to come out with a vaccine so fast. And Moderna moved from some $70, I believe, to some 350 or something
Something like
in
yeah.
record time because of just kind of the progress that they showed.
Just the approval. Yes. Yes.
So
Yeah. And they benefit from the valuations also. Right? The valuations benefit from this. Technology companies are usually highly valued, right? And the more involved technology is or influential technology is in the growth of a company which is otherwise in a different sector or perceived to be, that just moves the stock as well.
yeah, because I was just, wondering one day, and why do technology companies or that because they move so fast because the scalability is there, the
Yeah.
access to market is like global. So
Yes.
Google can access all the markets just from anywhere, right? Zomato can access the whole Indian market from anywhere, right? So that's the reach of the market also makes sure that or provides that opportunity for these companies to grow very, very fast. And that's the opportunity I think the investors are looking for. So, Sitash, in terms of, like I said, we hear about Apple, Facebook, Amazon, Microsoft, Netflix, and these have been very established companies. But there are a lot of IPOs also which have been coming out in the
Yeah.
US and in India also. And people do have opportunities there. In fact, Robinhood just came like a week back or so, or 10 days back. And first it went down, now it's gone up, and there's been a lot of volatility for 70, 60. So it's been moving all over the place. So what do you think about IPOs, and is it possible to for the Indian investors to invest in the IPOs through the StockAl platform, and obviously through our partnership with Scriptbox?
Yeah. So that's a great area. IPOs, and considering our knowledge as Indian people of global companies which are going to go IPO, especially from a tech startup standpoint, our knowledge and interest has been very high, and we've observed this on the Stockle platform as well. The number of queries, when say Airbnb went IPO, or in the beginning when Snowflake went IPO, then DoorDash happened, Coinbase happened. There is massive interest for crypto in India, obviously, and then Robinhood happened most recently. Just those queries on Stockle skyrocket whenever we observe a tech startup IPO in the US. Unfortunately for Indians or for retail investors in general, the US IPO market is very different from the Indian market. So subscribing to an IPO in the traditional sense is very difficult. Unless you work for an investment banking firm which is running the IPO, there is really no retail participation when it comes to subscription to IPOs in the US. Of course, Robinhood did something special. They opened up their, they opened up their IPO to their customers, and some of their customers were able to invest. And I think that was one of the reasons why the stock actually fell initially, because it was already baked in. A lot of people who would have invested after going IPO had actually already invested, and therefore the pop didn't really happen in the beginning. Some 300,000 investors were already in, in the company pre-IPO in a way, and that's what caused the dip. And then of course it's popped since then. So yeah, not just Indians, retail investors cannot subscribe to an IPO at the moment, but we are working on a solution which will enable this. There are a few players in the US market also which are working on a solution which will enable IPO investing. So are we. That being said, Indian investors over the last, I would say 1 year, talking of Airbnb and Snowflake and others which have gone IPO, they tend to ask us, what time is the stock getting listed? So how soon can I really get in? So if the stock is getting listed at 10:30 a.m. Eastern time, then people are like waiting. So just before it begins to pop, they would want to get in. So that's something that's happening, and that happens that will happen on Scriptbox. People will be able to invest in the company as soon as it is listed and available. Just that you can't get in, you can't subscribe to the IPO, but it's not very different from what an investor in the US would see. It's really the same thing. But let's see, over the next, I think, couple of quarters, we should have the ability to have IPO subscriptions available to Scriptbox investors as well.
I also want to add, Sitash, over here, and in India also is going the same way. Something which is getting subscribed like 10 times, 20 times, 30 times, and the allocation is very, very low. While there is always that novelty factor, as well as that thing about also fear of missing out, that, hey, I missed out on those gains. But ultimately, investing in any stock, whether it's in India or in the US, it is about prudent investing. So you want to invest in a company which has its fundamentals right, and you believe in the fundamentals, and it's for long-term investing. So when you do long-term investing, whether it's in the US or in India, you research the company, you invest it for its merits. And when you are investing for its merits and the price is right, even though it may be double the price of the IPO, let's say, right?
Right.
But it's still a good investment in the long term, because you will end up coming out laughing and all the way to the bank in the long term. So I would say,
absolutely,
for the investors, look at IPOs as part of your portfolio or prudent investing. And if you see really you believe in the story, you have done your fundamental research either through an advisor or you just yourself, and you find the stock worth investing, then go ahead, invest in it on the first day, second day, maybe even wait for some time, and watch it and see if it makes sense for you to invest, right? There's something else about the US market which probably is not available in India. It's about fractional shares, right? So in India, you have to have minimum 1 share. And I'll give you an example of Berkshire Hathaway. The stock has never split, right, in its life. If I have to own a Berkshire Hathaway, if I have to invest $1,000, I'll probably get some 0.000 something, right, percentage, or a part of the share, right? So that's because of the fractional shares. So do you want to talk a little bit about fractional shares, what it is, and how it can be done? And is it possible to do it on the StockAl platform?
Yeah, no, I think because the holding structure in the US is different from the way stocks are held in India, it allows for fractionalization of stocks. Unlike India, where every stock that you purchase is in your demat and you can take a physical certificate and stuff. In the US, you can also get a physical certificate, but the stock is at the street level, as they say. It's held in the broker's name and ledgered to the investor. So the ledger entry is as good as having it in demat from a governance and ownership perspective and rights perspective. But because at the street level, the stock is actually held in the name of the broker, the broker has the ability, therefore, to split it and offer fractional ownerships to various investors. And some brokers or some clearing companies have built technology to do this on a real-time basis. So one could, I mean, these days people are fractionalizing real estate, people are fractionalizing all kinds of assets. And just using technology in a real-time context, one can fractionalize stocks for highly liquid securities. So if there is no liquidity, then it's tough to offer fractional stocks or fractional securities in those scenarios. But for highly liquid securities, which is about 95% of the US market, again 90 to 95% of the US market, fractionalization is possible because there are many buyers at the same price or roughly at the same price. So market makers are able to make the market at that price. From a retail investor's perspective, and especially for an Indian retail investor's perspective, this is very interesting because given the rupee dollar equation as well, prices of stocks, unit prices of stocks tend to be expensive. Anything over $1,000 is an expensive stock on its own. Anything over 75,000 rupees is quite a bit to own. And one could probably buy like one unit of a stock, but that's not a portfolio. That's just one unit of one stock. And one wants to diversify again, have a portfolio of 5, 6, 10, 20 stocks or whatever it is. So with fractional stocks, like you said, that becomes possible. I can own as low as I think up to the 8th decimal of a stock.
Wow.
So I can really own you can instead of one could really invest, I think, $50 in Berkshire Hathaway or lesser than that, right? So it's possible therefore to own Berkshire Hathaway. Otherwise, it would be it would just not be possible. It's possible, and Berkshire Hathaway is one, and it's obviously a great story on its own. But even if you look at the commonly available or the commonly liked stocks that we have been talking about, the brands that we understand, they're all pretty expensive as single unit stocks. A few $1,000s each. Even if it's like $2,000, $3,000, $4,000, it becomes expensive. So yeah, the beauty of fractionalization is that one can have, let's say, like they say, FANG, right? So Facebook, Amazon, Apple, Netflix, Google, and then maybe Microsoft, Tesla, like the most popular common stocks, all of them in one's portfolio, but you don't need to invest more than $500 to do it.
Which is good, actually, which to me is that every investor has an opportunity to participate in the growth of companies that they believe in, or they feel that they should have in their portfolio. In fact, a little bit story about Berkshire Hathaway, that they broke the software of the stock market, of the exchange, because their price just crossed that limit that had been set, right? So I think they had to update the software and all. So in terms of there's something called as SIPC insurance.
Yes.
In Sitash, what is that SIPC insurance when it relates to US in stock investing, and is it applicable to the Indian investors also?
Yeah, I think that's a great point as well. So every portfolio, so every broker, if I get a license in the US to be a brokerage firm, mandatorily SEC and FINRA, the regulators, need me to take insurance on every retail account that I will onboard. And SIPC is the investor protection authority, basically, which provides this insurance in the US. One can take additional insurance as well, but SIPC is the default that everybody takes. And SIPC insurance is again good, especially for foreign investors, because it gives us comfort that, look, my money going there, irrespective of the size of the broker, is secured by insurance. And it's $500,000 per account. So if I have 2 accounts, I will have $1 million. If I have a family of 4 and we have 4 accounts, I'm insured up to a couple of $1 million, or we are insured up to a couple of $1 million. So for every account, $500,000 worth of insurance, of which $250,000 or up to $250,000 applies to my holdings. So anything that I buy and it's lying in my portfolio is insured up to $250,000. And any cash which I hold in my account, that's also insured up to $250,000. So if tomorrow something happens with the market, Lehman Brothers happened. That was the last time anything disastrous happened at that scale. If SIPC insurance kicks in, if the broker goes down, the custodian shuts down, there is no ability to move the account around to a different brokerage firm, which is still a going concern. Then SIPC steps in, and there is a process. Investors don't really have to do much to sort of avail that. It's just automated. All of it is part and parcel of opening and maintaining the account. There is no involvement of the investor from a day-to-day basis for this. Everything, there's no premium to pay. There is no extra process to be followed. No new form to be signed. It's all by default. And every account gets SIPC insurance. It is applicable just as much to a foreign investor as it is to a US resident investor. So it is applicable to all Indian investors, people who will invest via Scriptbox. They will all have up to $500,000 of insurance available.
So I'm assuming StockL has all those protections built in, the insurance built in the platform. And to all the viewers, you are protected to the extent of $500,000, which is a large amount that we are talking about. It's like more than almost 4 crores that we are talking about, right? So, and given that it'll be a part of your portfolio, a percentage of your portfolio, I think the total portfolio size which have this insurance would be pretty large, in my opinion, right? So there are regulations in India about
Yeah,
foreign exchange. There are foreign exchange regulations, Siddharth, and there is a LRS scheme, which is a liberalized remittance scheme. So if one wants to open an account and invest in the US, and obviously through Scriptbox platform and our partnership with StockL, how does one go about doing it? Is there like some certain steps, and is it kind of a lot of complicated, a lot of approvals required, or I'm assuming it should be
sure.
hassle-free, right? But I just wanted to confirm that.
Yeah, no, it's Scriptbox we're talking about. It is hassle-free, of course. And the way I think the way Scriptbox has built integrated Stockers APIs and built the user experience, the core Scriptbox experience is the same seamless experience that people otherwise have on Scriptbox. So and Stockers backend infrastructure and our brokerage ecosystem partnerships in the US, all of it are structured in a way that this makes the whole thing very, very seamless. There are no approvals required. Of course, the RBI limit, like you said, of the liberalized remittance scheme allows for $250,000 per year worth of remittances per person from Indian accounts. So which again is a pretty high limit. We haven't seen too many people, wanting to broach that or cross it or find ways around it. There are no ways around it, by the way.
And you don't want to do that in the first year. You should get used to the market, make sure that you understand the market, right? You should you should do it a step-by-step process. Yes, please go
Yes,
ahead.
of course, of course. And so, but the other important part is that the 250K applies not just to investing; it applies to all your remittances. So if
Yes.
you've sent money out for, let's say, kids' education or for some other purpose, if you've purchased dollars for some reason, that all counts towards LRS. So if I've spent, let's say, $10,000 or $20,000, then the amount that remains for my investing kitty from that perspective is really $240,000 for the year. So we see a surge in remittances around March, around April, where a lot of people tend to either want to exhaust their 250K or want to restart and do this again. So that is the only limitation that is there as such. Foreign investors are welcome in the US market. We've created a system where onboarding, KYC, anti-money laundering compliance, US taxation, everything is taken care of. There is nothing really to be done as far as an individual Indian investor is concerned, like zero. Everything is available on the platform. The other beautiful thing is that there is no taxation on capital gains in the US for foreign investors. So, there's no filing to be done on that. There's nothing that the individual investor needs to do. You get to bring your capital back. You pay your taxes in India the way you have to pay. Dividends are taxed in the US, but that's also automated. Just like in India, there is TDS. In the US, there is tax withholding of 25%, but it is, we probably have a discussion on tax separately, but you don't have to pay tax again on the dividend income that you make in the US. So there is really nothing which is frictional in that sense from a US ecosystem perspective, and from a Scriptbox, StockL, the way we structured the platform, the way you've built the user interface. I don't think people will see much of a difference between when they open an account to invest in the Indian market using Scriptbox, or when they get onboarded to open a US investing or to invest in a particular stock in the US. It's the same thing, from a user experience perspective, fairly seamless, completely digital, of course, and as straightforward as it gets for Indian investing.
So like Sitash mentioned, it's a hassle-free investing, and we have completely integrated our app and the platform with StockL's APIs. So all those facilities are totally integrated and available for investors for an easy and a rich user experience, and no hassles, and kind of I would say, click of a button or maybe a couple of buttons, right, to invest in the US. So is there any introductory offer or something that we are offering, Sitash, to users?
I think there's something that Scriptbox is offering. I'm honestly not aware
I wanted
myself.
to check with you, right? So,
No, I mean, if there isn't, then we should.
okay, great. So definitely, I think there's some. Uh, uh, Please contact us for the platform and invest in the US with us. Now, in terms of actually, I would like to show users the the app, or kind of just a quick preview of the app. So, Ankit, if you could just quickly show the video of the app. So here is you can log in with your email ID and password, and choose the stock that you want to buy. So here, of course, we've chosen a famous stock, Apple, and buy the number of shares, right? So just a kind of a quick preview of the app in terms of how it is done. And like our interface has always been easy, intuitive, and hassle-free. So that's the same with the US stocks as well. So we do have a offer running on all August, I think, Stash, which is $10 is credited to your investing account on first $1,000 remittance. So that's what I just wanted to confirm.
There you go then. It's a good start. That's, even $10 one can actually save a lot on forex and stuff like that. That works very nicely.
But again, the idea is to just get users to believe in US investing. So offers or no offers, please invest in the US, because you believe that you need to participate in the global markets. And US being the largest market in the world, I think it's what 55 or 60% somewhere. What's the contribution of the US market in the overall world market?
Yeah, it's
Sitash?
60% of the world's market. 60% of
Yes.
the world's market is the US. So going back to the original initial conversation, why not? Why miss out on 60% of the world market? Why just invest in what is 8% of the world's market, which is also great, but 8% versus 60%, why not do both? Why not invest in 68% of the world's market?
Sure. So combine India and US, you can really own quite a significant, you can have a lot of diversification. And like, I just wanted to reiterate or just impress upon the correlation also. Those correlations may change in the future, but currently the correlations are lower, and the lower the correlation, higher is the diversification. So that's the kind of the logic that goes with it. So why not invest with the good diversification? In fact, I just ran a poll yesterday. Not many people have participated, but some people have participated in that poll, and I wanted to know from the investors whether you should invest in the US market for diversification only, or for returns, or for both, or you should never invest. And I'm glad that the majority of the people think that they should invest in the US market for both, which is diversification and returns, of course, because US has been leading the innovation cycle and the technology and driving a lot of these developments and all. So that I think brings us to the end of our conversation in terms of what I wanted to discuss in the webinar. So shall we just take some questions, Sitash, or you want to add something?
No, I'm happy to take questions now. Let's I think
okay.
Bring it open.
So let me see. There are some questions. So what are the charges we need to pay as foreign exchange?
Right. So forex charges depend upon the bank that one uses for sending money out. So if you have you're likely to have an account with let's say an SBI or an ICICI Bank or HDFC Bank or Kotak or any of the other banks. Right? So every bank will have a fixed cost, fixed charge that they will want, anywhere between 500 rupees and I think 750 rupees in some cases. Depends upon the account you have at the bank as well. Some premium accounts have lower fixed forex costs and stuff. And then there is a bit of a spread. There is always the bank makes money basically on the spread as well. So spreads are typically, I mean, we've seen as low as 0.4, 0.3% for slightly higher amounts, but they can be as high as, point, 1.2, 1.3% also. So yeah, your gains in the market have to make up for any of these costs as such. But in the long run, it does add up. Also, as more and more investors from India do this, and this is something that we've observed over the last year and a half as well, that as more and more investors began to invest in the US market through Stockle, and as more and more money started to flow, banks were happy to reduce the forex cost. And we work with like 10 of the largest banks in India, and we were able to convince many of them, or rather most of them, to first go online with remittances. Remittances were not online for investing about even a year ago. For the most part, people had to walk into a branch to actually send money overseas. So that got solved for for almost every bank. Now what remains is the cost, and we've seen that as the remittances grow, banks are happy to reduce the cost.
And US being I think when you talk about foreign exchange, let's say some other countries, the spread can be large, right? But US being the dollar being very liquid, and the spreads are generally smaller between buy and sell. That's what I've seen. The bid and ask spread is.
Absolutely. And the dollar also rises 3-4% against the rupee anyway, every year, that anyway the appreciation is there. So that in a way also makes up for the cost.
So could you touch upon tax implication when a resident Indian participates in the US equities? I think you've talked about that. Just quickly, we can just touch upon it again because there's a question.
Yeah. So tax-wise, like I was saying, capital gains made by foreign investors are not taxed in the US. So as Indians, we don't have to pay capital gains tax in the US. We have to pay capital gains tax in India. Dividends are tax withheld and then credited to our account. So if I have, let's say, $500 in my account, and I have, let's say, GM or Microsoft or IBM or some stock, another, $200 worth, and let's say that stock gives dividends, and let's say I get $100 worth of dividend. So in my cash, where I had $1,000, now I will say 1,000 plus $75 as cash in my account, in my Scriptbox/Stockle account. $25 out of 100 would have been withheld at the time of crediting. The requisite filing for it will be done automatically. It's managed by our ecosystem partners in the US, and it's automatically taken care of. So you get your $75, and you get to bring that back to India like normal cash, or you want to invest in it again. You could again invest it, whichever way you want to use it. You use it. The 25% tax that has been paid on this is deductible from any tax that you will pay in India, or rather the money that you've received as dividend is not taxed in India, because there is a double taxation avoidance agreement between India and the US. The investor gets an acknowledgement of the tax that's been filed, and you get to use it when you're filing your India taxes to sort of disclose that, look, this money I've already paid tax on. As far as capital gains is concerned, any security which is not listed in an Indian exchange, which is a SEBI governed exchange, basically, any such security is treated as an unlisted security as far as Indian taxation is concerned. So the taxation, the way it applies, to unlisted securities in India, it applies the same way to short-term, long-term capital gains. Pretty much the same rules as they apply to Indian investors.
Do you need RBI's special prior permission for resident Indian to invest in the US stocks? Answer is no. I think we've already talked about it, so I'll just move on. Is there a minimum capital required to invest in the US as a retail investor from India?
None.
Okay. How do you think the next 15 years look like for US stocks? Interesting question.
Yeah. 15 years is a very long time to predict something for. But I think one of the things that's emerged in the last 10 years or 15 years is that some of these companies which are not necessarily technology companies, but are influenced greatly by technology. The way Anup, you were talking about Moderna and Tesla and some of the others, it across sectors. I think it's quite obvious now that technology is here to lead the world forward, irrespective of the vertical. Technology is more a horizontal now. So any and every company which is able to use technology to build scale and build solutions at scale and acquire customers at scale. And when you do that, you're doing it efficiently as well. Your cost base is lower over a period of time. Those are the kind of companies which are going to lead the world forward 10 years, 15 years, 20 years, whatever time frame we take. And a lot of those companies they happen to be listed in the US, and a lot of those companies continue to go and get listed in the US from all over the world. So I think if one looks at economic cycles, obviously there will be cyclicality, and the market will peak, and then there'll be troughs and there'll be plateaus. 15 years is a long time, so all of this is definitely expected to happen. But then it will happen with our local market as well. So one has to see correlation and diversification as the logic when one thinks about US investing. But just purely thinking from a going forward or taking the world forward perspective, a lot of these companies, because of the influence of technology, I think will lead the world in that sense. Be it technology for energy, technology for pharma, technology for crypto, which technology for finance, therefore all of this, and a lot of these companies are listed in the US. So I think it will continue to be the leading market as far as the globe is concerned.
And one question I wanted to ask you here associated is, people can not only just buy stocks, right? They can look at ETFs, right?
Yeah.
And so kind of a basket of stocks also, right? Which means that you diversify, and you diversify into a theme, into a sector, and you don't have to really always just what I would say, for lack of a better term, bet on a particular stock. And I never consider investment as betting, but if you've done your fund homework, or if you've done your research, but you can always do risk management in investing, whether it's in India or in the US. And longer term investing always helps, because then and always assume that you will not make money in all the stocks that you hold or on all the line items on your portfolio. If you are making money on 60 to 70% of them, I think your portfolio is in good shape, I believe, right? That's what I have seen in my experience.
Right. Absolutely. And yeah, great point on ETFs. I mean, even for resident US investors, ETFs are responsible for about, if I'm not mistaken, 70 to 80% of the flows as far as retail investors in the US are concerned. Much like mutual funds are much more popular among Indian investors, as when they enter the market. ETFs are diversified. ETFs are less volatile, therefore less volatile, right? And there are over 1,000 ETFs available on the Scriptbox platform via Stockly. So if I invest in Indian mutual funds, I should invest in US ETFs also. It's like that, right? Of course, there are companies that I understand, and therefore I'll invest in single stocks as well. But ETFs is the more natural way to go for a lot of investors. Also, there are very interesting ETFs. More than one sort of researches companies and individual fundamentals and understands their market and the way they are going forward. ETFs, like you said, is more like a index built on a basket. So it's easier to think in terms of diversification, in terms of thematic investing. There are thematic in ETFs in like nuclear fission, so much so that there are pet-oriented ETFs. There are ETFs for all walks of life. There are ETFs for all stages of life as well. And there are ETFs for industries, themes and sectors. There are ETFs for various regions also. So, if I wanted to take exposure in European companies, there are European ETFs or Europe-focused ETFs listed in the US market. If I wanted to take exposure in China or other Asian companies, there are those ETFs also. If I wanted to take exposure in commodities or gold, the most popular commodity, then there are gold ETFs and other commodity ETFs available. So it's a great way to invest in things that one is interested in without having to research individual companies.
In fact, you mentioned about commodities. So in India, there are still limited opportunities to invest in commodities
Yes.
because we have mostly gold, right? And silver would be coming soon. I think we just heard in the news. But in the US, you can take exposure to a lot of commodities. So that can be another diversification point, right? So
Absolutely.
that is also
Absolutely.
possible. How much Scriptbox is charging for US stocks? So we charge 0.5% for buying and selling, and there are no other charges for opening account, maintaining account, or anything like that. So that's the question answer on the charges, which is very reasonable. Uh, then other question is you can choose to buy fractional stocks for as little as $1. So is that correct? That was one of the things that
Yes.
we talked about.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
One question that came up also is that you mentioned in the context of fractional shares that the shares are held by brokers and they can divide them, which and the multiple investors can make up as a one share. So is there any risk? But I would say because SIPC insurance there should not be any risk. But I just thought I'll just check with you.
Yeah. Not really. I mean, and SIPC doesn't even have to come into picture for fractionalization, because that comes into picture if something massive happens where everything shuts down, and it's almost like disaster insurance for the financial services sector. Uh, See, it could become risky if the stock was illiquid and it was being offered in fractions, because the rest of the stock is controlled by the broker or like one entity. Whatever fraction you've not bought and anybody's not bought. So if it's an illiquid stock, then sure, there is the potential to manipulate and stuff like that. But the stocks which are offered as fractional stocks are highly liquid stocks. I mean, ETFs are also, by the way, offered as fractional ETFs. So it's not just stocks, but always these are the most liquid securities which are offered. So there, I don't think there is any risk per se when one is just investing, because it's fractional. There is no additional risk because of that.
Can you please share the bank fees and charge details for HDFC, Axis, and ICICI? How much they will be charging if we buy US stocks? I think the answer is around 500 to 1,000 rupees per transfer. How can I apply for IPO in US market via Scriptbox StockAL? We have already talked about you cannot do it right now, and we are working on that proposition. But like I said, IPOs, don't just buy IPOs for its novelty. Please buy the IPO after researching the company and buy it for the longer term, preferably.
Yeah.
Yes, you can always look at listing gains and all, but that's not guaranteed. Like Robinhood, first day it just went down, right? So people who would look, and it could have gone down further, but yes, it did recover. But that's the way the nature of the companies are. So invest them for its fundamentals or for its merits. And
Honestly, Indian investors got lucky on Robinhood. They could not buy pre-IPO, so they had to, if you bought, you
buy it
bought
in
on
that
the
day.
day.
So it was a blessing in disguise. So
Yeah.
in India, we have financial magazines like DSU, Business Today, etc. Can you suggest such magazines for US stock market to gain insights on US stocks? Is there any reading material or any research available online that investors can use to familiarize themselves with the US stocks?
There's so much. I mean, there's a lot, right? It's a mature market. Therefore, the media around it is also very mature. There is, I mean, right from Wall Street Journal all the way to more, I would say, specific platforms like Seeking Alpha, uh, and then there is Market Watch, there is Benzinga. At least these three come to mind. There is Barron's. All of them write about, they analyze news and market and talk about individual companies and stocks. Seeking Alpha in itself is a pretty good research tool, where a lot of analysts tend to write posts about individual stocks. So if somebody's researching individual stocks or securities, any kind of securities, Motley Fool is also very interesting. Fool.com is
I
a
remember.
financial services. So it's also very useful. Again, not recommending any of these, but these are all research tools available, and I've personally found them useful now and then, and a lot of people tend to read them. So yeah.
Sure. I have stocks in USA with the USA trading company. I would like to transfer all my USA stocks to any Indian trading company as I'm residing in India now. And there's no plan to go back to India or go back to, I
Yeah.
would say, US probably. I'm not sure. It was a typo. But is it possible,
Yeah.
Jitash? Okay.
Yes, yes,
And
sir. So
what
they
is
can move
normal
over
the
their account to Scriptbox,
okay,
and through the
okay.
Scriptbox Stockle partnership, they will be able to see all their portfolio inside Scriptbox once they move it over. So they should reach out separately, and we will activate that.
Some of the questions are repetitions, viewers, so I'm just skipping those questions and rather because we've already answered them, so I'm moving forward with new questions. How are you different from Vested? So I think that's an interesting question.
Yeah, I mean, we are talking to the Scriptbox audience here, right? In the case of this particular product inside Scriptbox, it is why even compare it with another platform which is offering only one market, right? So through the Scriptbox platform, you get access to Indian mutual funds, Indian market, as well as the US market. I think that's a pretty strong differentiation right there.
So I would,
Other than, of course, the features, and there are other things, of course, which you can add, but I'm just generally saying that it's much more.
So I would add over here. So I think when you compare, there's a comparison that obviously investors may be seeking or viewers may be seeking in terms of Vested and StockAl. But I'll put it like this. The features of the easy opening, the backend that StockAl provides all the rich features for us to create a rich user experience in the front end with Scriptbox, which users have gotten familiar with, or they've kind of become comfortable with that. So Scriptbox is always created applications and the user experience so that it's easy for you. And what it has done is that because the backend that StockAl provided us with all the features and the APIs which are available in terms of easy investing, we have been able to create that interface, and we have not compromised in any way, and made sure that the user experience is always rich. So it's more about, and it's also, see, when I talk about Scriptbox, it's a digital wealth management company. So we are not just talking about US stock investing. So what we are also doing is we are saying that, hey, here's an avenue for you to diversify your portfolio. And within the context of your overall portfolio, which has mutual funds, stocks, and other products, you also have an avenue to invest in the US stocks and make sure that you have the diversification and your portfolio keeps becoming comprehensive in terms of your overall holding.
Just one additional numeric point, Scriptbox, StockAl, and therefore Scriptbox has more securities available, more stocks, more ETFs available than Vested or any other platform.
Fantastic. So more choices for investors. Yes. And the choices doesn't mean that, and this is something that I often talk about, so I thought I'll just bring it up. Diversification doesn't mean that you end up owning 100 stocks, because then you're really actually over diversifying. It's not helpful. So when you have more choices, what you can do is you can choose among those choices the combination of 15, 20, 25 stocks or securities, and optimally diversify your portfolio and make sure that you are the themes or the choices that you want to make, you can go with it in your portfolio. Should we, income tax, which we have talked about, can I offset loss in US stocks with gains in Indian stocks?
Yeah, I guess, yes. So it's your overall income, yeah.
So what happens is that, yes, it's kind of, yeah, over in the, as part of the overall income that can be treated, it can be offset. Yeah. Is it just safer to invest in US mutual funds whereas Scriptbox? Is it just safer to invest? No, I don't think it's, again, it's an, what I would say, I would like to kind of answer that. You can invest in fund of funds also. And you can see, you own mutual funds, you own stocks because you want to get a best diversification and optimal portfolio. And there are different sub asset classes or asset classes that you want to take exposure to, and make sure that your portfolio gets the proper risk management also. So you're not only looking for returns, you're looking for risk management also. So from that perspective, you want to invest in different products. You want to take different exposure, whether it's mutual funds, Indian mutual fund, US mutual funds, Indian stocks, US stocks, and make sure that your portfolio constructed that way. And Scriptbox will help you do that. So it's we will help you construct, or because we are a wealth management company, and we will help you construct that overall portfolio, which is as per your needs. I also wanted to add quickly is that we do financial planning, we do goals planning. So it's not only about this portfolio construction; it's also about mapping your goals to that portfolio and making sure that you have the money when you need it for your goals. Can Scriptbox give some recommendations to invest in the US market? Not as of now, no, because we are not advising as such. So we are providing that facility to the investors to invest in the US. But we are also building on that advisory aspect of it. So please reach out to your relationship managers if you already have one, and we'll soon add that capability on our platform. Which sectors are going to benefit from the $1 trillion infra spent by US? You have any view on this, Sitash? Which sectors are going to benefit from the $1 trillion infra spent by the US?
I think infrastructure as a whole impacts pretty much all the sectors, right? So I think especially energy, I think there's a lot of focus on energy. There's a lot of focus on things like mining and petroleum in the country as well. So a lot of this will go into that. Construction, real estate, obviously, is going to get positively impacted with the infrastructure spend, and all of it will sort of converge on certain companies which are again using all of this to build their businesses, right? So more real estate would mean, better real estate would mean better factories and therefore more manufacturing capabilities, which then yield probably more, vehicles and stuff. So one has to look at correlations and ripple effects. I think infrastructure expenses are such fundamental expenses that the ripple effects on multiple industries will be very interesting to watch.
It's already 12:30, Sitash, so I'll just take a couple of more questions if that's okay with you.
Yeah.
Can an investor use the StockAl platform to go short on stocks or indices? So I think that's a very valid question.
Yeah, unfortunately, no. And it's not about StockAl, honestly speaking. RBI does not allow any leverage or any margin when you are investing via LRS. So much as we would love to offer everything that we could, RBI has those kind of limitations where if you spent out, you can basically only invest with the cash that you sent out. So you naturally can't short because you can't take margin. You can't.
I worked in USA before and still have my account there with some money. Can I invest from a US bank account? I'm non-resident and moved to Australia from US.
So by and large, yes, you can use a bank account from anywhere in the world. As far as an Australian taxpayer now, we'll have to, I guess, look at whether we can onboard an Australian taxpayer. Of course, you're an NRI, so I think it should be possible, but one has to still look at it from an Australian perspective. But you can use a bank account from anywhere in the world.
Okay. Can I invest in Europe as well, or while working in Europe, can I invest in US stocks?
While working in Europe, you can definitely invest in US stocks.
Like the Australia comment that you.
Yes. You can live anywhere, have a bank account anywhere, and you can open an account. Except if you are a taxpayer in the US. We are unable to onboard US taxpayers as of now. That's the only limitation from an onboarding perspective. Other than that, yeah, I mean, if you're living somewhere and you want to invest in Europe, then I guess on the Scriptbox StockAl platform, it will have to be via Europe focused ETF.
Okay. Do such investments benefit someone planning to move to the US in the future? I think I just wanted to quickly mention about this. It always helps if you're planning to move to the US in the future. That's also good because now you already have an exposure in the US market, and you may not have done that in the past. So it always helps. And again, these portfolio decisions are, you may have a bent towards investing in the US stocks more because you are staying in the US. But again, your portfolio should be global, like something what Sitash mentioned earlier. If all the markets were combined into one market, and US is a large cap market and India is a mid cap market, you want to take exposure to both, right? So,
Yeah.
and in a way, I consider myself lucky that we have that access to both the US market and the Indian market. I'm not too sure if retail participation in the US for India is so much, right? Or except for NRIs staying in the US, right? So that way, I think we have a lot more the exposure, or we've been doing that US investing, or we're starting to do that in US investing. So that way, it's good, I think, for the diversification point of view. One last question. Will Scriptbox curate a bouquet of US mutual funds, ETF stocks with long-term, short-term objectives, just like how it is right now? Could be a great start point before we get into the wild west of stocks. Absolutely, actually, and a fantastic idea. Would love to do that. And that's one of the things that definitely we are looking at. And it's there in the future. It's on the cards in the future. So, but great idea, and we will create that bouquet of services based on the short-term objectives and the long-term objectives. So I think that was the last
Fantastic.
question, Sitash. Those were very valuable insights, Sitash. Thank you so much. And so do you want to say anything, Sitash, to the viewers?
Yeah, no, once again, thanks for listening in. And, on the fly, hearing these questions, especially one also gets to think a little bit more about the platform itself and the possibilities that emerge from it. So thanks again for listening in, and thanks again for being customers of Scriptbox. If you're not yet, you should be. Open an account. Like right now, there is an offer going on also, right? And Anup is here to, the CIO. So you should definitely look at the platform. And I think keep the questions coming over a period of time. I guess we are, very open about it, and it's still early days for global investing in India. So we are all learning, and a lot of insights are emerging as we go deeper into the US stock market sitting in India. So I think keep the questions coming, keep thinking about it. The curiosity helps all of us. And Anup, thanks so much for having me. Thanks so much for inviting, and this was a great conversation. Just talking itself is a great conversation. A lot of insights emerge and a lot of interesting thoughts. Then again, it's great to be a part of the Scriptbox ecosystem.
Thank you, Sitash, and we are so excited to partner with the StockAL and work with you and the team. And it was a great conversation. I also enjoyed our interaction today. So thank you so much.
Mutual fund investments are subject to market risks. Read all scheme-related documents carefully before investing.